I told you the Atlanta Thrashers were up for sale and their owner said, hey, if anybody knows someone who wants to buy the team, send them this way. What would you say? You interested?
Well, I'd be about as interested as a homeless person living outside the arena. I don't know if we've checked the attendance level inside the Thrashers for hockey, but I don't think anyone realized that they have actually a hockey team there.
Yeah, but we're talking about an NHL franchise in the South. That can't fail, can it?
Well, we have to talk to Mr. Bettman about that, who knows everything about hockey, apparently, who's made the game as great as it is and brought the head injuries down. So I guess it's a debate we have to talk with him about.
You got 4 kids, right?
I got 4 kids, yes, sir.
Hey, you bring your entire family, I bring mine, that makes the attendance go up probably 50%. Let's get right into it. I want to ask you about Joe Thornton. You know him because you played with him in Boston. So what do you think he was saying to his guys right before Game 7? And don't give me that, hey, guys, we got to go out there and give 110%. Tell me everything you think he said in that locker room in San Jose.
Well, obviously, I mean, he's going to say the trendy shit of walking in. But I think Joe's more of that guy who leads by example. And he's had a lot of pressure on him over the last few years about, not following through, not coming through, the captain, the leader, the franchise player in Boston, now, going to San Jose. I think last night, he showed his white leadership. His face-offs were unbelievable. The first 2 goals, he was right in on them, the PK, the breakaway pass he gave back to Heatley. So he's more of that leader shows by example. And I think last night he really he showed his team how they had to play. And, you had Sedin talking about it in an interview of, Joe's a leader by example. And guys look up to that. So when they see him going, they're excited because they know they have a chance to win.
So when I said don't give me a cliche hockey answer, you just kind of ignored me, didn't you? That's okay, because I never played the game.
Walk in and say, hey, guys, we have to win tonight. It's a big one. That's pretty obvious, right? So I think their whole team, they've got quite a few different leaders. And, Marleau, who used to be a leader, who apparently is not a leader anymore, for them, they're all speaking up and, they know what they have to do.
Yeah, I want to ask you about Patrick Marleau. JR had a lot of things to say about him. Your buddy Jeremy Roenick said he's gutless. He doesn't play the game with any heart. He's hurt right here, referring to his heart. Do you think he went overboard, or do you think he was just saying what everybody else should be saying about Marleau?
No, I think he went overboard a bit. I mean, speak the truth or speak something you hate, or whether he was trying to motivate him to get going. I think he just got into the conversation and didn't realize how far over the line he was going. And I think even, his co-host who was interviewing him was kind of looking at him saying, what the hell are you saying right now? And I think he realized it because I believe he went on the next night and apologized that he did cross the line of, that was a personal attack. Was he as a player not playing well? When you start calling a guy gutless, you're really, attacking his character. And I don't.
But what happens if he actually believes that he is gutless? And to me, it doesn't really mean much because I never played the game at the level you did. But what does it mean to say about a guy's personality if you say he's gutless?
Well, I mean, as a player, who gives a shit, right? Roenick calls me gutless, whatever. It's more the, it's not the fans. It's more of what the players hear. It's just, when someone like as big as Roenick, says that, it takes a lot of, gets a lot of weight. People are like, oh, Roenick's calling him gutless. Is he gutless? Maybe he is. So it doesn't second guess the player. It just gives those anti-Marleau haters more juice to say, yeah, he's gutless now too, and he's not our leader. So, they're big words coming from a guy like Roenick.
Well, he isn't their leader because they took the C away from him and gave it to Joe Thornton a few years back. But don't you think that the team kind of set this whole thing up, like by taking the C away from him? Aren't they kind of just saying, well, whatever, we're just going to throw another piece of meat on the barbecue? Like this, it's basically just roasting the guy.
It is. When you take the leadership responsibility as being the captain, as your franchise, as being, there from the beginning of his career, when you take that C away, what are the young prospects, what are the fans see about this guy? Say, he used to be a leader, but now he's not. Now he's just a normal, one of the players in the lineup. So it does set the guy up to be a shooting gallery for the media, for any negative press right away to say, oh, you used to be the captain, now you're not. The teams don't, the media doesn't really trash talk the captains too much because they're the leader and they're supposed to be the guys that are leading the team. So they don't really trash the captains too much. But now they're not captains anymore, and they're saying, well, you're just a has-been and you're no longer good. So usually when a team takes a letter like that away, they'd usually just trade a player. So I'm surprised that they haven't ever traded
Don't
him.
you believe that if a guy's at one point good enough to be your captain, and then you're saying, well, he's not really what we expect in a captain, don't you think it's just time to move on and trade the guy?
Absolutely, there's no question. I mean, prime example, there was a player, Todd Simpson, kind of a mucky, grinder player, played in Calgary, was their captain in Calgary. And they took the C away from him, and they traded him right after they did it. So you have to trade. You take the leadership away. What faith are you showing in your system when you take the C away from the guy who you thought was your leader? That's second guessing the players onto the management and coaching know what's going on.
Turn your camera a little bit towards that jersey, the red and white one. Steve Yzerman, right there. Captain of the Detroit Red Wings, won 4 Stanley Cups with them. Everybody always questioned his ability until he won. If the San Jose Sharks win this season and they win the Stanley Cup, is it all of a sudden over? Will anyone ever question Thornton again? Will anyone question Marleau ever again?
Yeah, I think that question is going to be there because guys like Yzerman won over and over. They were proven leaders. He didn't, just win one Stanley Cup and be the captain and then shut it down off and on. Guys like himself are in a category, you talk with Wayne Gretzky, who just win all the time. Guys like Paul Coffey, Brian Trottier, they win all the time. They know how to win, and they know how to bring winning people around them. So, until they really establish, those sort of guidelines, I don't think that pressure is always ever going to go off them until they actually do it, over and over.
You got a couple teammates, former teammates of yours, that made it to the conference finals. Zdeno Chara, you played with him in the Island, and Joe Thornton, like I said, you played with him in Boston. Now, tell me what you think Zdeno Chara is thinking right now, going into the conference finals. The first time he's been there since he was there with Ottawa, I believe. Mm-hmm. What do you think it's like for him? I know you probably don't know him that well because he was a rookie, but right now, the captain, probably the best defenseman in the game right now, what is he thinking?
I think he's probably pretty excited. I mean, it's a great opportunity. The fans, the city's going nuts in Boston. Him being the leader, he's a proven leader. He plays well every night. I think early in the Montreal series, he was kind of weak. I don't know if he was sick or whatnot or hurt, but he didn't really.
He had that virus that they've been saying he's had it for a couple months. So this week and a half off could be good for him.
Yeah, there's no question. So I think he'll be excited. I think he's really going to excel. I don't think he has really been Zdeno Chara that has been in throughout the season. So I think he'll really be excited, and I think his energy is going to go out to the rest of the guys in the team. And he's playing well. Everyone else is going to be jumping up and be excited as well.
Okay, quick question for you. Between two of your former teammates, Hal Gill and Jason Allison, who'd win a foot race?
Who would win a foot race?
Yes.
Probably me.
Could you take it any longer to win that question? Both those guys could have been around the ice twice by now. Who do you think would win in a foot race between Hal Gill and Jason Allison? Actually,
believe it or not, Jason Allison is a terrible skater, but once he got skating, he was actually a pretty fast skater.
I saw him play 60 games in Toronto. One of the worst skaters I've ever seen in my life. Him on a breakaway, it was just really nothing special. So you hear this phrase all the time about, guys, our best players have to be our best players. And, yeah, that kind of goes without saying. It's a pretty stupid thing to say, actually. But what's it like when you're Ken Belanger or you're Torrey Mitchell for the Sharks or you're Tanner Glass for the Canucks, and your best players, whether it be Marleau, Heatley, Thornton, or the Sedin sisters in Vancouver, aren't your best players? What's it like for the guys who are doing their job on the bench, but the other guys aren't?
Well, that phrase, your best players got to be your best players, is just a phrase that you use. When you're in the game, you're a team.
Let me guess. The media made it up, didn't they? It's a conspiracy. It was all the media.
They try and sell newspapers, so they say your best players. That's just whatever. So what, the reality is, when you're in the dressing room, everyone knows their role and responsibility. So who are your best players? Well, your best players are who's ever playing best that night, in my mindset. It takes 4 lines to win in the playoffs. We can see, was it the Downey line? They have more points than St. Louis line. So that's what it takes to win. That's why Tampa Bay is where they're at in the playoffs, because of their third, fourth line players are their best players right now. And then we're going to get their best players to step up. So it takes a complete team to win. So everyone's got to be your best player to win championships.
All right, let's talk about the Flyers. They lost to the Bruins in 4, and their goaltending was absolutely horrendous. And they got a lot of money tied up in forwards like Giroux and Carter and Richards and Briere and Hartnell, and then the defense with Pronger and Timonen. So that doesn't leave a lot of cap space. But for them, should the priority be at all costs, we need to go out and get either Ilya Bryzgalov, who's a free agent, or Thomas Vokoun, who's another free agent?
There's no question. The last time the Flyers had a good goalie, I'd say would have been Hextall. They haven't had, I think they've gone through 15 different goalies in the last 5 years. They
15.
haven't.
They probably went through 15 in the conference semifinals against Boston. They went Boucher, Layton, Boucher, Bobrovsky, Boucher, Layton, Bobrovsky, Layton. It just kept going, and it was just a constant joke, and it was only 4 games.
Yeah, I think that they realize that this should be a priority for them, and but the question is, who are those top stellar goalies that are available? I mean, you're not getting those franchise goalies anymore. That the Patrick Roys, you don't find those guys. The guys come in 1 or 2 years, have a good series, good season, and they're gone. You don't get that stability in goaltending anymore.
What's you always sat at the end of the bench close to the backup goalie, right?
Best spot on the ice.
Did you ever see a backup goalie try and grab some food from a kid sitting next to him?
I haven't seen him try and grab food from a kid. I've seen him grab food from the pants of his hockey pants that he brought out to the bench.
From his hockey pants. Well, what did he bring?
Chocolate bar. We used to play with a goalie, and was with the Leafs and the Miners, Marcel Cousineau. We used to call him Snack Shop.
Are you sure it was a chocolate bar? Well, what happens if it was an O. Henry, but it wasn't wrapped? Are you sure it was a chocolate bar?
We used to call him Snack Shop. Every time he went to the bench, he had food stuffed in his pants. And he'd just reach in his pant leg and pull out some food.
What about you played with P.J. Stock in Boston, right?
He was there, yeah, when I was leaving.
Did he ever tell you the Bazooka Joe story?
No, haven't heard it.
He told us Off the Record that he used to chew Bazooka Joe bubblegum on the bench, and he'd need a place to put the comics and the wrappers, so he'd stuff them in his gloves. And he didn't think he was getting another shift. And someone ran their goalie in the 3rd period, and the coach said to him, "Get out there." And he had to fight. What happens when he threw down his gloves? There was an explosion of comic books and little wrappers that came from the gum, and they were all over the ice. It never happened to you, did it?
No, I was pretty focused on the game. I got great seats, and I paid attention to it.
Hey, yeah, well, better seats than I have at Air Canada Center. But did a coach ever look at you and say, "Hey, Ken, tell what's-his-face over there to strap up and get in there"? You ever say that?
No, you know what? The goalie always knew. The game is the game behind the game, and you're paying attention to when it's time to go in. So the goalie was always ready, and they knew what they had to do when it was their time.
Your buddy with the chocolate bars never looked up, stuffing his face like this with a chocolate bar, and said, "Hey, get in there."
Chocolate all over his face? No, I've never seen that.
All right, so Tampa Bay, you told us last week you didn't think that they were going to beat Boston, but I really think that they're a better team all around. I didn't think the Bruins had a great series against the Habs. I thought they were obviously pretty good against Philly, but what do you think is a better test for them, the Philadelphia Flyers or the Tampa Bay Lightning?
Well, obviously goaltending with the Tampa Bay Lightning is going to be a challenge for them. They obviously didn't find it hard to score on against the Flyers with the high scoring. You're not going to get 5-6 goals a game against Tampa Bay. I can tell you that. So that wasn't much of a challenge in offense, and I think the defense in Tampa Bay is going to poise to be a little bit more of a challenge for them. That they're going to have to stick with it and continue to drive through.
Well, you remember the bet we had, right? If you get more series correct, I put up the picture of you and Junior. If you get it wrong, I put up the picture of you where you look like an ex-con with the handlebar mustache. We still on with that bet?
Absolutely. You got the pretty boy picture ready?
Well, not so far, but it'll be done if you win. I'm a man of my word. I honor bets. Ready to do this next week?
Let's do it.
All right, let's do it, and hopefully we'll see a picture of you with the handlebars over my left shoulder. He's Ken Belanger. I'm Corey Landsberg. We'll be back next week. I'm not afraid.